everybody. It is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome, and welcome to the season finale of The Old, the New, and the Awesome. We hope that you are all doing well. We are about to start the holiday season, and I am just very glad that I am with two good friends to ring in good times with good people and just, not worry about the world for a while, especially considering the fact that I am now officially on vacation. So Stacy and Cammie are here. Ladies, it is wonderful to have you back, always.
Always good to spend time with you guys.
Yeah. So how are you guys feeling about the fact that we've got a little bit of time now to just, kick back, relax? I know it has been crazy, crazy year. Although, in my personal opinion, I think that one of the few things that I have been noticing is that the average person, regardless of where you fall, seems to be finding a little bit of something called common sense and suddenly realizing, my God, this world is really screwed up and the people in charge need to start walking a few things back here. But you know what? I'm just glad that I don't have to worry about going to work for a few days. I'm going to relax. I'm going to have some good times with my wife, some friends, some family, and, outside of everything that was going on in the real world, it was crazy over here on my end because of the visit I got from Hurricane Ida. But something, even that is starting to look a little bit brighter. There seems to be a light at the end of the tunnel in certain pathways that we're all taking. Do you both agree on that? And what are you excited for the most about this holiday season?
I do agree about that. I think that we have had a crazy couple of years back to back, and I think that we have just been in a continuous go, go, go mode and survival mode. At least that's how I've felt, just trying to get to the next month. I don't think I've ever not for the first time thought so much about the now versus the future, because the future changes so rapidly and that you just don't know what's going to happen 1 minute to the next. So this holiday season, I think I've been a lot more cognizant of the behavior of people and how where we were as a society a year ago, just wanting to spend time with family and not being able to do that, and how we've quickly gotten back into that greed and that just that insatiable need to outdo each other and grab the last item on the shelf. And it's like, really, did we forget just a year ago the most important thing to us was just spending time with our families and our friends that we couldn't reach? And now we're just so consumed with consumerism once again that it's just about what we can buy. So I have been very minimalist this Christmas. I have made it a point to reach out to family, to friends, and to put that at the highest level of priority and just relax as much as humanly possible and enjoy the very simple things, going back to crafting and enjoying gift wrapping and enjoying my pets, the things that I love the most.
I'm just laughing on the inside right now, Cammie. You said the word minimalist, and then I just see that amazing display behind you. And I'm like, oh, maybe for now, in a couple of weeks, because this is my sister from another mister, people. I know her well. She is going to go right back to the old Cammie that I know and love. That is a definite.
Walking contradiction, I swear. I understand. It's okay. You can laugh. Yeah.
But it's out of love. That's really what it is. You know that. Stacy, how about you? Because like Cammie and I, when we're not recording, we're talking a lot, especially when it comes to the new Funko Pops that come in the mail. But I haven't been able to speak to for a while. I know that you've been doing a lot of important things on your end, but I'm just hoping that you're going to have a little bit of time with the family and some time to wind down as well.
I hope so too. Yeah, I've been crazy busy because we bought another place in Tennessee. So we're going back and forth between Virginia and Tennessee a lot. And that's, time consuming, and place needs a lot of work. But also, how I've been doing my holiday season, my husband has decided to change his diet. So now he's kind of like on a keto diabetic type diet, and it's Christmas. and I like to bake.
Yeah.
So I have been trying to figure out how to make this happen, how to bake with keto ingredients, and it ain't fun. It ain't fun, and I don't like it. So that's what I've been doing all day, trying to make one recipe turn out decent. Can't do it. Sucks.
Well,
Yeah, can relate, Stacy. It seems like every year for Christmas, my husband decides that it's time for him to lose that extra, 15 pounds. And I'm like, it's Christmas. This is the one time that I actually, well, not even that. It starts at Thanksgiving. Like right before Thanksgiving,
Right?
he starts getting apprehensive about all the leftovers. And so I'm like, this is the one time of the year that you actually get back-to-back me excited to cook. So can I just do that? Can you just eat what I make? Like, do we have to eat lettuce?
I
So
know.
I get
Keto
it.
Christmas isn't fun.
I mean, let me be honest. I mean, you guys know that I don't celebrate Christmas, and Hanukkah actually happened a couple of weeks ago, but we're no different. I mean, we're literally filling our faces with deep fried potatoes, chocolate, and donuts. So
I wish.
I mean, I was actually a little upset, even though it was going to be impossible for my wife and I to get there. We unfortunately, I don't know if this is going to be the official end, but we did not have a family tradition on my dad's side for the first time in so many years. My dad's mother, my grandmother, well, actually, she's passed away, but she was one of 7 brothers and sisters. And they had this massive Hanukkah party ever since the family came to the United States in the 1930s. And I remembered always going there and seeing all my cousins, getting my presents, having a good time. Last year, we didn't do it in person, but we actually all got on Zoom and we lit the candles together, which was really, really nice. But this year, we didn't have one at all. So the truth of the matter is, it's tough for a lot of people because, unfortunately, family is very much scattered all over the East Coast. It's also been very difficult for some of cousins who I remember growing up with because they're all parents of children and unfortunately young children. So kind of hard to get the kids out to, go out for a couple of hours on a Saturday night because the kids are young. They still need their sleep. So I'm just hoping that, the family is definitely one that still keeps in very close contact. So I'm really hoping that there's going to be a true meeting of the minds and see how can we possibly find a way to make it easier for the family to come together for this holiday, because I would personally, as a Jew, it's so horrible to say I'm going to feel that Jewish guilt, but it's going to be so hard to realize, like, oh my God, is it my generation that actually killed the family tradition? Like, I don't want that to be. I don't. But I'm just hoping that a solution will be found. I would love to see, especially my generation, come together on social media and say, hey guys, how can we do this? Because this is a true family tradition. We all loved it growing up. We want our own kids and their kids to experience this as well, because the generation that started it is not going to be here forever. But, it's sad when these types of things happen. But yeah, I definitely will say, based on what the both of you said, I am also sort of trying to find a way to be a little bit healthier, but definitely not in the food category. But I am actually trying to get back to some exercise in the morning, though today I didn't do any exercise because my legs killed me because I did a whole bunch of lunges the day before. But for me, it's not about getting rid of the foods that you enjoy. My issue is I eat way too fast. It's all about just making smarter choices, like, have a bowl of oatmeal in the morning, and then you can have a decent sized lunch, and then you can have a sensible dinner. It's not about, okay, I'm going to just eliminate all these foods, like maybe sweets, not all, but most, because I have another problem. I discovered Ritter Sport chocolate. I was seeing all these commercials in the morning on NBC for these German chocolate bars, and I'm just like, God damn it, now I need to go get myself one of them. So at this point in time, in the span of 2 weeks, I've already consumed 4 of them.
Wow.
I love chocolate.
I'm sorry, the concept of chocolate with cornflakes in it was so intriguing to me, and let me tell you, it was good.
Yeah,
I miss yumminess.
the good combination. There's a couple of different cereals that have the little chocolate squares, so that's good.
Yeah, that's actually true. I actually do say to myself, if you're going to have chocolate in a healthy way, have a chocolate cereal, like Chocolate Life. Did you ever get your hands on that, Cammy?
It's so good.
Oh, I did. Yes.
Oh, thank God.
I've consumed several boxes of Chocolate Life since you've introduced me to it.
Oh, that's a great cereal. It really is. I actually found cinnamon bun frosted mini wheats. Those are delicious.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, they're brand new. For some strange reason, some chains have it, some chains don't. But I do love frosted mini wheats, and I do look at that as a healthy cereal, even though it is sweet. There's tons of fiber in it. So I think that's really what it's all about, you know. I'm sorry about you two and that you're having trouble with all of the food that you're trying to prepare. I'm really sad to hear that, because I thought that something like this would happen after the holidays.
That would have been smart.
Yeah. I would have appreciated that, but unfortunately it just hasn't worked out in my favor. So, you know, I'll take what I can get. I do slide the little Hershey's Kisses in his lunch. I'm like, here, at least have this. And yeah, that's about as good as it's gotten.
Yeah, my wife has emergency chocolate. She is a certified chocoholic. She said that, and she is proud to say that. And she always has Hershey Kisses, and now her latest obsession is Nestle Flips, those chocolate-covered pretzels.
Oh, yeah, they're good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I found around Halloween and Thanksgiving time, I found the pumpkin spice flips. Those are dangerous.
That sounds good.
Those are so dangerous. All right. Well, listen, I just hope that the both of you have a wonderful Christmas, and I hope that it is the best that it possibly can be. And I'm also really hoping that the new year is going to be a good year. I mean, I speak to Cammie a lot off camera, and I know how she feels. I have a feeling that that will probably be our hot button topic when we officially start the second season, because I just want this to be a happy time, no craziness and whatnot, but there's going to be a lot to talk about. I personally feel it's going to be a little better. Not much, but a little better. That's just my own personal opinion. Just a smidge, but not now. So, Cammie, let's talk a little bit about 8-Bit Christmas over on HBO Max.
It was fun, of course. Neil Patrick Harris, when you see his face associated with the term 8-bit, you've got to just follow along and join the fun. And it was fun. I think that for me, it fell a little short of my expectations. I think initially when it started, I was kind of like, where's this going kind of thing. And then the kids happened. And when the kids took the screen, they took the spotlight. And for me, that was really just the joy and the magic that movie was. I think that it is definitely worth the watch. And you know, Neil Patrick Harris was fun, and I loved his kind of, you know, a narration, I guess is how I would coin it, as he was walking his daughter through the process, and you know, just kind of letting her know what happened and the storyline. But I mean, it wasn't something I can see being like the Home Alone of the future. You know, I mean, here we are 5 years later watching Home Alone still, and this is just one of those that I think that we will have heard of. Maybe some of us will own, maybe there will be a digital copy or something, but I don't think that it's going to be a Christmas classic. That's just my take.
Yeah, Stacy, if you haven't heard about this one, it's on HBO Max. It sort of falls into the Jingle All the Way and A Christmas Story vibe. It's basically the story of a father telling his daughter about how he always wanted a Nintendo and how he tried to get one. It feels like one of those classic Christmas movies that revolves around children, and the fact that they put it into the 80s was something that really, I think, was what made the movie. I thought the kids were those typical cliche 80s kids that you saw in movies, and I agree with you, Cammie. It was not the greatest film that I ever saw, but I think that some people will look at it as a new Christmas classic and some won't. I don't think that people will say that it is as horrible as that new Home Alone movie on Disney Plus. So I'm kind of glad that you mentioned Home Alone. But I haven't really heard many people talking about it, but I personally thought that it was a 2.5-star movie. It was cute, but it was nothing special. But
This
as
was
an
like the British one, right? Like the kid's British.
That's the Home Alone. Yeah,
Is it
the
the new
boy.
one?
Yeah. That's the kid who played the friend in the movie Jojo Rabbit. If you never saw Jojo Rabbit, I actually saw it. That was a pretty good movie, much better than I thought it would be. Cammie, you also saw something called Father Christmas is Back, and you also saw.
I saw that.
Oh,
I watched
then
that.
go, both of you.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
It's cute.
Anytime you see Fraser Crane on screen, you're like, I've got to be there. I know that's not his name, but I will forever say that he is my Fraser Crane.
The brother dynamic,
So
I loved. The old brothers.
it was perfect. And I think that we need more movies like that. Maybe it's just the nostalgia in me. Maybe I just need to have those types of movies where you get those actors of yesteryear and they just fit in the setting. But it was hilarious. It was great pacing, great acting. It was a lot of fun. So you have Kelsey Grammer, who happens to be the father, and essentially what had happened was during the childhood of his daughters, he has, is it 3 or 4 girls? I can't remember,
I think
Stacy.
4, a lot.
I
think it was 4.
I was gonna say 4, but I was like, I think yeah. So he has 4 daughters, and what ended up happening was he left their mother on Christmas when they were super young, and so they hate Christmas for that reason. And of course, they all grew up very different, and so this finds us kind of back at I don't think she's the eldest, but we'll call her, I think she's maybe the second oldest, but she's got her stuff together. She's very OCD, very meticulous. It finds us in her home, opening the scene with her husband, her 2 children. Everything is picture perfect. And her sisters are there visiting for Christmas. Her mother's there, her uncle's there. And then all of a sudden, dad shows up with his new girlfriend, and she's super young, totally airheaded, really goofy. And you're telling yourself in the back of your mind, oh God, this is gonna be stupid, but it's brilliant. It's just beautiful from start to finish.
Elizabeth Hurley's
I just really
in
love
it.
the sister
She was
dynamic.
fantastic.
Okay, that's Kelsey Grammer and Elizabeth Hurley. That's already 2 great actors right there.
She was the oldest sister, and she hated that she was like aging. It was so funny. Like all the scenes with her were so funny. It was
I don't even remember the last time that Elizabeth Hurley was in something.
I know, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Still beautiful.
Like
Still stunning.
Okay, I have seen her recently. I cannot get over how great she still looks. I mean, look, I know that when you say that about an actress, especially when there are other women in the room, they'll say, oh, yeah, well, that's because of this, and that. But you know something? I personally look at Elizabeth Hurley as one of the true natural beauties of Hollywood. I think she is. She's always looked wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just you got to watch it. If you haven't watched it, Steve, I think you'll honestly enjoy that one. I just wanted to end it there because that one I think is something I'll revisit year after year. It was that good. It was
Where is it?
Netflix.
Oh, it's a Netflix film. Okay.
Netflix.
Okay, because I'm just excited because by the end of New Year's, I'm actually going to find a way to get more streaming services and not have to worry about the crazy prices. My father-in-law just told me that because I'm already subscribed to Showtime, I can get Paramount Plus through my cable provider for free. So that would make my wife very happy because then she could watch all the Star Trek series.
My daughter's watching Star Trek.
Which
the
one?
Original. She's watching the Captain Kirk Star Trek.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, we don't have Paramount. I think she's watching it on Hulu.
Oh. Okay, I mean, I know that Hulu's got a few as well, but my wife is just looking for a place that shows Voyager. Her favorite is Voyager.
Oh.
I'm a TNG fan. Patrick Stewart was, well, the truth of the matter is, do you know how I actually became a Star Trek watcher? Reading Rainbow? know, there was one Reading Rainbow episode where LeVar Burton dedicated an entire episode to behind the scenes of Star Trek The Next Generation. So I started watching that show because I wanted to see LeVar.
That's awesome.
That is cool. That's a good reason right there.
Well, he's one, like Kelsey Grammer. He's one of God's gifts to the world. He really is. Even though he wasn't a great Jeopardy host, I still love him to death.
Yeah.
I don't know why he got so much flack for that. I mean, Alex Trebek's shoes are extremely impossible to fill, and it's just, he is who he is. Like, I don't know what people were expecting. You're gonna get who he is, what his character is, and I think that there was just such a high expectation in terms of filling that slot that everybody just kind of got butchered, and I thought he did great.
You know something, my attitude is I kind of am hoping that Ken Jennings will take the job permanently, merely because of the fact that it just feels right. You know, he was the guy who was the first guest host, and one of the first things that he said when he was doing his first show was, let me be clear, no one will ever replace Alex Trebek, but we can honor him by playing the game he loved. The fact that he was so humble the very first episode, and then he goes right into the games. And Jen and I are watching right now, and he has gotten so much better as a host. He's got such great charisma. He's funny. I just really feel that he is the one who should replace him, just because it just feels right. You know, the greatest host of all time to the greatest player of all time, it just fits. That's my opinion.
I think that will end up happening because I just think that's what the fans want. And, you know, at this point, there's just been so much controversy surrounding filling that placement that they're going to give the fans what they want. So I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, but as far as giving the fans something that they don't want, Cammie, you tried to watch Seth Rogen's new Christmas show, Santa Inc.
Okay, so I went in on this with the notion that, and help me on the title because it escapes me, that American movie that we watched.
America, the Motion Picture.
Thank you. Okay, so I went in kind of with that notion that you said it was horrible, but then remember I kind of ended up having fun with it. Yeah, it was trash, but it was fun trash. So I saw the ratings, I saw the reviews. People were saying this movie is horrendous, it's over the top, bad writing. I thought, you know what, Seth Rogen is a little weird, but I think because I enjoyed that movie this summer, maybe I'll have fun with this one too. You know, I don't mind a little crassness, but this movie was disgusting from start to finish. Every other word is either the F word or just some profane, disgusting verbiage. So it's really hard to find humor when you can't get past the dialogue. The writing is atrocious. And again, Steve, you're better with names and following things. Help me out. What is that female comedian?
Sarah Silverman?
Oh, she's terrible.
She's trash. Terrible. Okay.
She is trash.
Utter trash. And I used to like Sarah Silverman when she was dating that night show host. I suck with names. This is how far.
That's why we're here. We're here to help you.
Clearly, Cammie needs a lot of help these days. So thank you for being my therapist and my friends. So yeah, Sarah Silverman. When she was dating Jimmy Kimmel, I really liked her. I thought she was softer. I thought she was kind of crass, but still in a lovable, kind of feminine way. But ever since he's broken it off with her, she has just tried so hard to be noticed that the projects that she associates her name with are just utter garbage. And I thought, okay, you know, I'm going to give her one more chance because, again, I like Seth Rogen. I think that this could potentially be a possible good matchup. It's not. I wouldn't waste your time. I wouldn't waste your energy. Everything everybody's saying is absolutely true. There's nothing great about this film because even the plot has so many potholes in it because they're trying to do so many things with it that it's just a mess. It's a hot garbage crass mess. And that's not holiday. And that's another thing. Like, you know, I think people are saying, well, you can't ruin Christmas. Well, sure, you can ruin any holiday. You can be crass at any time of the year, and it's fine, and adults can take it. But it's one thing to say crude and lewd things about Santa Claus. It's a completely different thing to have Santa Claus shoved up your ass for the holidays, you know? So it's like, let's find that happy medium. If you want to show me something that's a little bit lewd, let's be a little bit tactful about it, because then maybe the dialogue will carry. So yeah, I hated it. I actually didn't finish it, and I am not one to DNF many things, but I could not finish. I watched maybe 30 minutes of it, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to move on with life and do something important with my day.
That's bad.
Okay, I've got 3 things in regards to responding to that. Number 1, not just Santa. I don't want anything shoved up my ass. Number 2, one thing that Sarah Silverman has done in the last 10 years that is actually not bad happens to be the voice of Vanellope Von Schweetz in the 2 Wreck-It Ralph movies, and that's because people keep forgetting that she voiced her. That's number 2.
You're right.
And number 3, unless your name is Irving Berlin, Jewish persons did not try and make a Christmas movie because you just don't get it. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't want to say that it's classified as cultural appropriation, but Seth Rogen, first of all, I don't think he's funny. There have been very, very few times where I found him funny, and the only time where I truly loved him was Freaks and Geeks. That's where I truly, truly loved him in the role that he played. But I think that he is just an idiot. I think that he and that whole Apatow group are just a bunch of stoner morons, and I don't find any of them funny. I don't.
I don't either.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of like SNL leftovers. I know they've only done guest appearances on the show. I'm not saying that they were like actual actors on the show for a given time, but I'm just saying that in terms of the comedic approach that he has, I think he's tried that hard to be that funny. And I think that when you have to try to be funny, you're not funny. And, you know, don't get me wrong. When I say I like him, it's usually because of a supporting actor or actress that I enjoy watching that makes him, you know, enjoyable or laughable, you know, in that context. But by himself, I absolutely agree with you. I think he's very bland. I think that there's this constant need for attention. And when you have 2 attention whores like that, which I very much think Sarah Silverman is, it just clashes. The whole thing is just garbage, and it's just rough. It's real hard to get through.
You know, it's actually kind of funny. The one person from the Judd Apatow crew that actually has done the best in terms of stuff that they have done and has actually been loved for it is Jay Baruchel, because he voiced Hiccup in the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy, and those are fantastic movies.
Was the animation, because you mentioned Vanellope, I think animation stands apart from everything else. Yeah, I will give her credit for that. She's actually one of my all-time favorite Disney characters, hands down.
Adorable.
If I find something Vanellope Von Schweetz, I will pick it up in a heartbeat. That's how much I adore that character. I think she's innocent, she's funny, she's beautiful. She's got this great sense, and Sarah Silverman does a phenomenal job with that. But again, when it comes to comedy and animation, there's a fine line, and I think that sometimes when you pick up a cartoon, you just kind of have to watch how far you go, you know? And I think this one just went a little bit too far, but not in a good way. I mean, it's okay to press the boundaries a little bit, but if the writing is good or the acting is good, I didn't think any avenue of this worked.
Yeah, and I don't like the fact that Disney will not acknowledge that Vanellope is a Disney princess, because she is a Disney princess. She is. She was classified as a Disney princess at the end of the first Wreck-It Ralph movie. If you haven't watched it in a while, just rewatch it and you'll see. She is the princess of Sugar Rush.
Okay, maybe a little princess, a mini princess.
Yeah, well, that scene in the second movie when she's with all the other Disney princesses is it's great that Disney made fun of themselves in the greatest way possible, but all of it was just adorable. And also, I gave Disney as much as we love to crap on Disney right now, and for good reason, I will say that the fact that they were able to get all of the living actresses to reprise their roles in that scene, and even get Anthony Daniels to voice C-3PO in that scene as well. I give them so much props for that. I truly, truly do. But, speaking of something that I couldn't even get through, I tried to watch that brand new Wheel of Time series on Amazon Prime, and I couldn't get past the second episode. I just found it boring, and it hurt me as a Brandon Sanderson fan because I know that he is currently writing the series because the original author passed away, but I just couldn't get through it. It looked good, and I'm right now on a massive kick of watching, those Game of Thrones shows and his Dark Materials. So this sort of felt that it was in the vein, but I just said to myself, something, I'm not going to get into anything high fantasy or anything sci-fi right now. I'll just wait for this fourth season of Stranger Things to finally get here and just not waste my time.
I just read my first high fantasy books of all time ever.
Which one?
Lord of the Rings series. I just finished it yesterday. The whole series. Started in September. But it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Did you also include The Hobbit in that? Or
I haven't read The Hobbit yet. I'm reading it in January.
I will let you know. I will let you know a fun fact about me. The Hobbit is actually my number 2 in my top 3 books of all time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my top 3 books of all time are number 3 is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and Stephen King's It is number 1. And I love it. And Stephen King's It is so nice. I read it twice. But I'm glad that you mentioned that, Stacy, because it's a big year for the Lord of the Rings. As a matter of fact, just last week, Fellowship of the Ring film celebrated its 20th anniversary.
I know. Well, you know why I started reading the books? It was a total blip. I was doing a search online to find some books that are good to read in the fall. I wanted to read something fallish in the fall. And all these lists kept saying to read Lord of the Rings. And I'm like, why is that a fall book? That doesn't make any sense. Apparently, I share a birthday with Bilbo and Frodo Baggins. September 22nd is all of our birthdays, which is the first day of fall. So I started the books in September for my birthday, and I just finished it yesterday.
And because of the fact that it's the 20th anniversary of the first film in the original trilogy, I have been rewatching Lord of the Rings.
We just rewatched the first one the other night.
I'm sure it was the extended edition.
No, we thought it was, and then it ended at 3 hours, and we were like, I don't think that's the extended one. I think that's
well, actually, the Fellowship of the Ring is 3 hours. It's the shortest of the 3. Yeah.
Okay.
The first one is Fellowship is 3.5 hours, I believe. Two Towers is about 4 hours, and Return of the King is about 5 hours.
Okay.
And I am already 2 down. I have to rewatch the Return of the King extended edition. I had not watched those films in a long time. As a matter of fact, if you want to hear a crazy thing, one year, I can't remember what year it was, but I definitely know it was in my early 20s. My friends and I, I actually do know. It was New Year's Day. My friends and I, we all got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We started watching entire extended edition trilogy, including the Easter eggs on the DVDs. We watched them all in one day.
Wow.
We finished around 10:30 at night.
That's dedication.
Well, we wanted to try just because of the fact that we wanted to see if we could do it. And of course, because we all love those movies. And I will also say that is a revelation of film, those 3 films. They are, from a movie making standpoint, absolutely perfect. Everything about those movies is incredible, and I can watch the opening scenes of The Lord of the Rings when you see the Shire and you hear Bilbo talking about concerning hobbits. That is my favorite scene because it's the most cozy, peaceful piece of film that you will ever witness. I absolutely love those scenes. And I always have joked around that it would have been great if they could have remade the Ten Commandments and Ian McKellen could play Moses just so he could go to the Red Sea after all the Jews had passed. Just so when all the Jews will have crossed the Red Sea and he goes to the Egyptians, you shall not pass, and then just strike it down. That would just be really funny. No, but I love those movies to death. And next year is actually going to be the 10th anniversary of The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. So
I love the Hobbit movies. Yeah, I haven't read the book yet, so I'm excited for that.
Hobbit's a fantastic, fantastic book. I would also recommend you see, if you were able to, watch the, I can't remember what year it came out, but the Rankin Bass animated film. It is beautiful.
Wait, is that the one that came out in like the 80s when we were kids?
The 70s, 80s, something like that.
I saw that when I was a kid. Scared the crap out of me.
Oh, but that was when animation was actually made for not just children. That was a great time for animation.
It was dark.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've just been loving watching these movies again, and they are just absolutely perfect. And also stories behind them, and like sometimes where there was things that were actually improv, and how things that, you know, were supposed to go in one way didn't end up going in a specific way. Like I think there was a funny story in when they were filming The Two Towers. Viggo Mortensen was trying to do a scene where he had to kick a helmet and yell out in pain because he thought that Merry and Pippin were burned by the riders of Rohan. And they had to keep reshooting it because he just couldn't get the scream that Peter Jackson was looking for. So the reshoot, and in massive frustration, he does it, and he lets out this perfect scream, and Peter Jackson yells, "Cut!" What he didn't know was that Viggo Mortensen broke his toe.
Oh, man.
So that was just a really cool thing to hear. But that's another thing that's really nice about the holidays. You know, this is also a time when the big holiday movies are starting to come out and people are actually going back to theaters. I mean, look, it was great to hear how much money Spider-Man No Way Home made opening day. Movie theaters are not dead. Those theaters were packed. I actually want to talk about a couple of movies that I did see before the holidays. So I know that, Cammie, you did watch my review of the Marvel film that came out before Spider-Man, Eternals. You never told me what you thought about it.
Oh, I always enjoy watching your reviews. As a matter of fact, I usually go to your reviews before I consider going to the theater or even wasting my time watching a movie, because you let me know whether it's worthwhile. And I had heard so many mixed things about Eternals that, oh, it was fantastic or it was utter garbage. And there was just a lot of confusion. And so I'm like, I'm going to Steve, because if anybody's going to know whether this was worthwhile or not, he's going to tell me. And I got excited about it after watching your review. You know, I just felt like, okay, I think that this is worthwhile. And I'm just not sure why it got, you know, negative connotation from so many people. But, you know, again, there's that weird balance of comic lovers, just movie people, you know, so you're kind of just, you got to watch your source. And I guess that's why I trust in you, because I trusted that source.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt that as a comic book reader, you just needed to understand that these characters aren't necessarily superheroes. They're a completely different entity in this universe. So you have to understand that it's going to be a different kind of a movie. I mean, I didn't think that it was perfect. I just went in there just curious, and knowing what I know about the cosmic universe of Marvel, I had a feeling I was going to walk out enjoying it. I gave it 3 stars out of 4. I thought it was a well done film. I will be very excited to own it when it comes out on physical media in February. But there is a movie that I did get to see that I'm so glad I did not miss in theaters, Ghostbusters Afterlife. That was awesome. Ghostbusters Afterlife completely negates the 2016 film. Now, I did see the 2016 film in theaters, and I just want to say that the reason why that movie is where it is right now is because it was terribly written. Nothing against the actresses. The plot of Ghostbusters Afterlife was the plot of Ghostbusters 2016. we wouldn't be where we are today. I think people would have loved it.
I wanted to see it, but I didn't get there.
Let me tell you something, Stacy. If you are a fan of the original 2 films, you are going to love it. Paul Rudd is awesome in this movie. I want to make that clear. I don't believe it's on HBO because it's not an HBO property, but I know it's coming out on physical media very, very soon.
Okay.
But yeah, if you are a Ghostbusters fan, you are just going to truly love it. You're going to get those nostalgic feels. It's a true continuation of the original story. The fact that Ivan Reitman, the original director, his son Jason directed it with so much love and appreciation of what his father gave us. Will there be more? There don't necessarily have to be, but if there are more and they keep going with this formula and bring this new generation of Ghostbusters into the future, I will be there. I gave that movie a very proud 3 stars out of 4 as well. It wasn't perfect, but as a Ghostbusters fan, it's exactly what you want.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see it.
Yeah. And another new movie that I did see was the movie that Will Smith was in, King Richard, about the father of Serena and Venus Williams. That was a very well done film. I think that there is definitely going to be an Oscar nomination for Will Smith. This is actually going to be the second time that he was portrayed in a sports film, not as the athlete himself, because he did get nominated for Ali. But I really appreciated this movie. I thought that it was great because, you know something, I may not be a fan of the Williams sisters, but I know who they are. I watch tennis because of them and many other greats of their time. And I just thought that it was a very well done film. And if you want to see this little story about how he really pushed his daughters into this sport and how he tried to keep them out of trouble because, hey, when you're in Compton in the 90s, it's not a safe place for a young Black child. So I appreciated this man's dedication to his daughters and to the rest of his family. And it's definitely not a movie I'll rewatch again numerous times, but I'm glad that I watched it. 3.5 stars out of 4. Very well done. I think Will Smith will get nominated for the Oscar.
I will probably watch it, but from home because I've been trying to avoid the Smiths at all costs. I am so tired of their interviews and their oversharing in the media lately.
They're freaking weird.
That's kind of what turned me off. I was like straightforward, ready to go watch this film when I saw the previews for it. I was like, oh, that looks fantastic. And I absolutely love Will Smith as an actor. But sometimes people just wear on you when they become so saturated in the media, and he just overshared some stuff based on his autobiography that came out, and I didn't need to know all that, like, you're my Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Can we just keep it there, dude? Like, I don't need to know your weird shit that happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, and another new movie that I actually did go to see in theaters was the 60th Disney animated classic, Encanto. I really had a good time with it. But I will definitely still say that Raya and the Last Dragon is the better Disney classic. And I will just say that if one of these Disney films wins the Oscar for Best Animated Film or even the Pixar film, Luca, they're good films. But if either of them win, I'll be very upset because the best animated movie that I saw in 2021 was The Mitchells versus the Machines. That was a brilliant movie.
Yeah, that was a fantastic film. I haven't seen
saw
it
and I liked it.
Oh yeah, wasn't it great?
Yeah, my maiden name is Mitchell, so I had to watch it.
We're gonna take the little one to go see Encanto this week.
Oh yeah, because Mitchells versus the Machines just came out on DVD last week, so I have myself a copy. I am so thrilled to have it. Jen still needs to see it. She's gonna love it. I know it. So those were basically all the new movies that I saw, but there is still something on this list that I need to ask you guys, because apparently you both have been looking into this. What is Love Hard?
Movie
oh,
on
it's
Netflix.
also a fun, another fun Netflix one. It's a holiday movie too. I think you can classify it as a Christmas movie because it is Christmas based. So you have this woman who is a journalist. She works for a column. It's an online column, I believe, but it's kind of about relationships, and she bases it off of dates that she goes on. So she goes on these first dates, and then she writes about the tragic way that they ended because she never has good luck with it. Well, she ends up meeting a guy on a social media app, a dating app, and all the boxes check. Well, she decides, you know what, let me do something completely out of character. Let me go and just meet this guy. So she goes, you know, to his state, and she goes looking for him. The guy thinks that, you know, he's the one that invited her. He's like, you know, hey, why don't you come spend Christmas with me? So she's like, you know what? I'm going to do it. So she goes, ends up knocking on his door. His parents answer, and she knows something isn't quite right. So he comes to the door, obviously catfished, and then it just kind of escalates from there. They end up being really great friends. You know, there's kind of a back and forth, a love-hate relationship for probably a good portion of the movie because she's upset with him that she got catfished, but he does try to help her win over the guy that she thought she was going to meet, which is really cute because the guy does actually exist. He hangs out at a local pub that he goes to, and they introduce him and all of that. But that guy ends up being nothing like she thought, and then these two end up hitting it off, and it's just a really sweet rom-com, and it was fun. You know, it was something different. There was a lot of really modern elements to it. So I think that if you have kind of a feminine vibe to you where you're you know, on the feminine spectrum, and you like to fight for women's movements, you know, they did show that different version of Baby It's Cold Outside, which was a really cute little rendition of it. They modernized it. There was just a lot of little fun elements to it. So it was definitely a modern rom-com.
And she's the main star of the Vampire Diaries. She's the girl from the Vampire Diaries. So she's super popular, and I watched all the I was like a big fan of Vampire Diaries. So that's why I watched it, because she was in it, but it turned out being better than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then I got to ask you guys, you know, I'm going off script here because I think it's only appropriate that we have this conversation. What's your favorite Christmas movie?
National Lampoon's Christmas.
I think for me, it's Home Alone. I think that's my go-to. Every year I kick off the holidays with Home Alone. I don't get tired of it.
One or two?
One. The
Two
first
is my
one.
favorite.
I love two just as
Two is
much,
great.
but one is I think I love the dynamic of one. I love the soundtrack. I love just the nostalgia of it. And, you know, of course, the older I get, the more cheesy some of the elements of it become. But I think that's what makes me love it even more. And I just, like I said, I never tire of it. But yeah, two is a definite solid for me.
I love Tim Curry in two so much that I think that tips it over the edge for me.
I think Stacy, I think you need to revise that. You just have to say, I love Tim Curry. You don't even need to mention what movie it is.
I do, but him, the way he's like chasing after Kevin and, you know, trying to get him. I love that. I love that more than I like Marv and Harry going after Kevin. I think that's fun.
I have been one of Tim Curry's biggest fans ever since I watched Clue when I was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. That to me is my favorite movie of his. I mean, I know that there are people.
Picture Show.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, when it comes, people will say, you know, it's Rocky Horror Picture Show. Some people will say so many other different movies because Tim Curry is such a versatile actor. But
so versatile.
As Wadsworth in Clue, I will never look at him any way else, even though I know he is featured in so many different ways. Like, I still wish, like, you know, I'll bring in Funko Pops into the discussion. You know, I know that they made the Clue characters based on the board games, but Cammie, I wouldn't be surprised if you were exactly like me and said, why didn't they do this based on the movie? It would have been so much better.
Yes. Yeah, I actually had all of them in my hand, and I was like, but they're not based off the movie. They're just like random characters that they made from the board game. So no, I ended up passing on those. Yeah. But I have a hard confession to make. I've never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show.
What?
Wow, I only saw it, but I only saw it in the last 5 years. But yes, I have seen it.
It's a trip. It is a.
That's the best
I've
word to
never
describe it. That's the best way to describe it. I mean, I don't think it's the best movie that I've ever seen. I love the music, though. The music is
music's
great. But that's what you're going to remember from that movie and Tim Curry. You may not remember anything else.
And it's weird because I absolutely love Tim Curry. Anything that he does is liquid gold. I love musicals, but I think that's kind of why I've stayed away from it as long as I have, because it kind of gives me Clockwork Orange vibes. And I am petrified of that movie. That movie freaks me the hell out.
I do too. I hate that movie.
So over the top.
No, I feel you.
It's so crass. It's hard.
It is
hard. It's really hard.
It's not the same. Watch it.
I mean, I've seen like clips of it, but I don't really know what the premise is, so I've just never bothered, to like start it from the beginning or rent it or,
Yeah, some people even forget that Susan Sarandon's in that movie.
And Meatloaf.
Yeah, she is.
It's wild. It is so good.
Yes,
it's not like Clockwork Orange.
Well, A Clockwork Orange is an interesting story with me. First of all, that movie features one of my favorite actors, and that's Malcolm McDowell. I love Malcolm McDowell. Ironically, the first time I ever saw him in a movie was in Star Trek Generations as the villain. I loved him in that movie. But actually, A Clockwork Orange is one of the only two Stanley Kubrick movies I actually enjoy. I am not a Stanley Kubrick fan, but Clockwork Orange, I did enjoy, but I don't own it, and I probably never will. My favorite Stanley Kubrick film, which I do own a copy of, is Dr. Strangelove. That is a brilliant movie.
That's a good one.
Full Metal Jacket.
I don't like that one.
I know.
I purchased a book many, many years ago, and I decided, you know what, now's the time to do it. And this was probably like a decade ago. It's the 25 movies you must watch before you die. And A Clockwork Orange was on that list. And I thought, you know what, I love Stanley Kubrick. He's weird. This movie looks weird. Let me just jump in. And so I ended up just cold cocking, going to the store, purchasing these 25 films, knowing nothing about them. Hadn't watched, I think there was only one on the list that I had actually seen. And I'm like, I'm just going to go watch them, boom, boom, boom. And then I get to this one and I'm like, what am I watching and why am I watching it?
It makes you feel icky.
So bizarre.
And why did this movie ruin Singing in the Rain for me?
It's awful.
I will tell you, after I saw Clockwork Orange, I purposely tried to find a way to watch Singing in the Rain right away just because I wanted Singing in the Rain to make me feel happy again. I mean, that scene in A Clockwork Orange is one of the most iconic one of the most iconic moments in film history. It is. It's crazy.
I hate the movie.
Cinematically, it's beautiful. I will not ever, doubt that.
Yeah.
And the direction and the mind of Kubrick and the creation of what he did and the way the actors portrayed these really crass characters, it was really well done, very well written. But you, like Stacy said, you walk away feeling icky. There's no other way to put it. You just cannot take enough showers after you watch this movie.
Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you on that. So I actually watched a classic movie for the first time that I had never seen. I watched The President's Men with Dustin Hoffman and Robert Redford. I thought that would be a great one to watch after Election Day. It was very, very good. I know that you, Cammie, are someone who loves stuff like that. I mean, along with the Kennedy assassination, I'm sure that you are also one who is obsessed with those missing 18 minutes of the Watergate tapes. So,
oh yeah.
So I would love to know I'll tell you something, Cammie. If that shows up in the Department of Truth, I'm gonna lose it. But
yeah. That,
but anyway,
hands down, is probably one of the best comic book series that has been written in years. It has my name all over it. Stacy, I'm amazed you haven't picked that up yet. That is right up your alley. I'm talking about like every conspiracy theory known to man. Everything you ever thought you didn't think is in that book. And it's just so well written. I mean, it is really good. You would really enjoy it.
Yeah, I liked all The President's Men. I mean, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of movies that came out after All the President's Men that sort of had that very similar premise with journalism. One of my all-time favorite movies is Spotlight. That is a brilliant movie. It was this little movie that some people heard about, not that many people went to see, but I just remember when I walked out of that movie, I said to myself, why do I feel that this is going to be like the best movie of 2014? It was. It got the Oscar. I was so impressed. If you haven't seen Spotlight yet, I highly, highly recommend it. It's the story of this little group of reporters within the Boston Globe called the Spotlight, and they try to cover the story of the sexual misoccurrences in the Catholic Church, the sexual abuse scandal of the Catholic Church. Great cast. Even if you don't like the actors as people, it's Michael Keaton, Rachel McAdams, Lev Schreiber, Mark Ruffalo. It's a stellar cast.
Speaking of cast, I don't know if you call this a classic, something from the 90s, but I just watched Little Women from the 90s.
Really?
With Winona Ryder. I was shocked with all the people that are in that
That's
movie.
great.
I've never seen it. I don't know how I've never seen this movie, but I loved it. It was so perfect.
Isn't it fun when you watch a movie that you've never seen before, or a movie that you haven't watched in a long time, and you suddenly realize there are so many actors that you know and love in a movie, and you're like, why did I never see this before?
Yeah, I was like every single person in there. I was like, wait, what? So many people were in there. It was great.
It's why I keep telling people that if they've never seen the 1992 film School Ties, your jaw will hit the floor by how many famous actors are in that movie and how they were all unknowns at the time when they were in it.
Wow.
Yeah, did you ever see School Ties?
That's a
No,
great
I don't
movie.
think so.
School Ties is
That's
a
a good
movie
one.
that I recommend to anybody. It's the story of a Jewish boy from Scranton, Pennsylvania that gets a scholarship to an elite prep school in Massachusetts in the 1950s. And because of the fact that there's a lot of anti-Semitism amongst these blue bloods, he has to hide the fact that he is Jewish. And again, this movie's in 1992, it came out. Here's who's in this movie: Brendan Fraser, Chris O'Donnell, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and a very young Broadway star named Anthony Rapp.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it's got everybody in it.
It's a fantastic movie. I just watched it again a couple of weeks ago. It never gets old to me. And it's not because of the fact that it's about a Jewish kid and I relate to it. It's just a very, very well done movie. I think that what I really appreciate about it is the fact that it just shows you that, you know, there are people in this world that hate certain people, yet they can't understand why they do.
Mm.
It's a very good movie. I highly recommend it.
I have to check it out. I love
I
Brendan
own it.
Fraser. Do you? I've never seen it.
Brendan Fraser's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I know that so many people think that one of the stupidest movies that he was in was George of the Jungle, but you know something? No one could have played George of the Jungle like Brendan Fraser. I love George of the Jungle.
It's a fun movie. I like that.
That's because of the fact that, you know, someone who loves Jay Ward cartoons, those classic cartoons.
Yeah.
And, you know, I never actually say this on my channel with friends, but I'll say it now because Cammie does know this. I'm on a mission now to preserve classic cartoon characters before they're lost forever. So some of my own Funko Pop collection, it consists of these old cartoon characters like Popeye and Felix the Cat and Michigan J. Frog and Quick Draw McGraw. Like, because if you don't preserve them, no one's going to remember them. And the Jay Ward cartoons, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Dudley Do-Right, George of the Jungle, these are great cartoons.
When I was a kid, I had a very small 13-inch box TV in my room with rabbit ears, mind you, and I only got like 3 channels, And there was a moment in time where I was able to lock into those classic cartoons. So they're very near and dear to my heart because that's all I had access to. So I got to go back and enjoy things like, you know, Dudley Do-Right and the Pink Panther and all of these things. So I do have a very strong desire to preserve also the past. A lot of it for me is of my generation, you know, My Little Pony, Care Bear, the Smurfs, Garfield, you know, all of these things. But there's just something to be said when you go back to the era of like Hanna-Barbera, where it kind of all started, you know. I mean, that paved the way for the cartoons of the 90s. And you know, not necessarily cartoons we see today. Cartoons are very different. And then there was like a Black Plague period of cartoons that I question why parents were allowing their children to watch cartoons. But it seems like we've kind of come over that hurdle, and cartoons are fun again. You know, I enjoy still to this day watching cartoons. You will always find cartoons on somewhere in my home.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Funko hasn't made a Funko Pop of the Pink Panther yet. I would totally get that.
That's weird.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about Peter Sellers. I'm talking about the Pink Panther.
Yeah, that's weird.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you, Kemi, because one of the other things that I have been doing is I've been really diving into some of the great things of the past and also trying to watch some stuff that's currently out, because I finally finished watching all of MTV's Daria, and that truly is complete from start to finish now that I've seen every single episode. That is one of the greatest animated shows ever made, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, speaking of comic books, have been watching two very adult-oriented comic book cartoons. One of them was known as an MTV oddity around the time that Beavis and Butthead and Liquid Television were out. It was a 13-episode show called The Max, and is based on a Sam Keith Image comic book.
I don't remember that.
There was a short time in like 1994 and 95, MTV had a block called Oddities. They would show a show called The Max and a show called The Head.
I don't remember either of those.
I don't remember those. It could have been before I got cable TV though, because again, I'm a rural kid, and so we didn't get satellite television until 1997, 98. So if it was prior to that, then I wouldn't know it. But Daria was definitely in my world. I watched Daria endlessly.
Yeah.
I watched Daria and
remember
Beavis
the
and
Max.
Butthead, but I didn't hear of the other one.
Yeah.
Well, what about Aeon Flux?
I hated it. I don't like the way she looks. She's disturbing.
But anyway, yeah, The Max is a comic book that came out in the 90s. It was only 25 issues. It was from a guy named Sam Keith. He's such a unique artist. And this book was like, oh God, I'm already reading it like 11 issues in. How do I describe it? It's like a Salvador Dali painting on crack.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It's very interesting, but it's amazing. And the show is based on the first 11 issues of the book. So it's very much accurate to the comic book, which I really like. And the other show was HBO's short-lived 3-season Spawn. Spawn was amazing. Forget the 1996 movie. Forget about that movie. The animated series is brilliant.
My husband read those comics. We have them somewhere around here.
Oh, I'm reading a lot of Spawn right now. I am collecting Spawn comics right now, and they are still very consistent, very good. I still have some of my old issues. And another comic book that I finally started reading was one that the BookTube community has been talking about for years. I finally started reading Saga by Brian K. Vaughn and Fiona Staples, and it is great. I love the world building. It's so out there. It's got incredibly unique characters. I mean, it's definitely not for kids. There's a lot of interesting imagery in some of the issues. I think what's really funny is I was talking to our fellow That's Comical colleague, Cammy, Andy. He was reading it a little bit, and he was reading it in public on the bus or the train when he was going to work. And he's like reading this, he's like saying to himself, I don't feel comfortable reading this if someone looks over my shoulder. Because, like, yes, you're reading a great bunch of stories. You're reading about some very interesting characters. And then you flip the page, you're like, oh my God, this guy's got a dick in his mouth. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's extremely graphic, very,
But it's great.
very vivid imagery.
But
Oh yeah, it's
a very
fantastic.
well-written
But yeah, I
story.
agree. I wouldn't read it on public transport either.
Yeah, so the reason why I started to finally read it is because that comic book has been on a 3.5-year hiatus. And the big news at New York Comic Con was the story is coming back. The second half of the story is going to start getting told at the end of January. I'm going to pick up issue 55 just to say that I, captured the moment, I'm not going to get any more issues because I have all 9 volumes now in trade paperback. So I'm just going to continue to buy it in trade. I just kind of feel that that's the best way to do it. But I didn't even know you read it, Cammie, because I've been talking about it with the group and I never hear you say anything.
I like it. I enjoy it, but it's one of those things that I think that I'm not so passionate about it that I would honor a lot to the conversation. I think that when I agree to, voice my opinion or kind of let people know what I like, I have to be super passionate about it. It's something that I enjoy reading. It's something that, is definitely in my Rolodex of things that I've checked off, but it's not a true Cammie passion, and I think that in order to put my stamp on something, I've got to have that love for it or that disdain. One of the two. There's never a middle road with me. It's either I love it with a passion or I hate it with a passion. So.
Well, I will say this. Now that I've officially read the first 6 volumes and I've got 3 more to go until I'm all caught up, I will say that if they ever tried to adapt this into first of all, it should never be a movie. It should be a TV series. This has to be a TV series. And I think that the only person that can bring this series properly to life is the director of The Fifth Element, Luc Besson, because he has built those crazy science fiction worlds. Like, I love The Fifth Element, and I also am a big fan of Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. I love those movies. Luc Besson, when it comes to outlandish science fiction and fantasy, he just gets it. And I think that he's the only one that can turn Saga into a TV series or even a movie if they had to.
Yeah, that would be cool.
He would be the only director when it comes to comic book movies saying, okay, now get that guy to put that person's dick in his mouth. He can do that. Yeah, and I also have been watching Young Justice Season 4 on HBO Max. It's very different from the last 3 seasons, but I am just glad that the show is back because that is DC animation for true mature audiences. But I am also still watching Teen Titans, Cammie. I am. I still have to get back to The Sopranos. It is waiting for me on season 3. Teen Titans has just taken over my world.
There's just something magical about Teen Titans. I don't care who says bad things about it. I will forever stand behind that. It's just, to me, one of the best things to ever happen to animation. It's fun. And when you take it into integrating it with other realms and things of that nature, it just fits so perfectly. So yeah, I will forever be a fan of Teen Titans.
Yeah. And I completely forgot. I actually am supposed to rate my classic movies that I saw for the first time. I gave All the President's Men 3.5 stars. But anyway, the other thing that I actually wanted to tell you guys was I finally found a specific television show on Netflix. A couple of years ago, my brother-in-law posted a funny clip of a British TV show on his Facebook page, and I laughed so hard at it, and I found out that it was a 25-episode British show called The IT Crowd, and I had no idea if I would ever be able to watch it. Apparently, I just found out last week that it was on Netflix, and I binged it. That show was hilarious.
I've seen a few episodes. It's very funny.
I mean, did you ever see Bridesmaids, any of you?
Mm-hmm.
The guy who ends up being the love interest of Kristen Wiig, Chris O'Dowd, is in that show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like
It's funny.
It's very funny. Like, my wife and I, we quote this one episode. So when we finally watched the episode in its entirety, we were just so happy. It was this scene where so basically it's about these 2 IT guys who work in the basement of an office building, and they get a relationship manager named Jen. So these two guys, Moss and Roy, are just like the most socially awkward people that you could ever see on television. So there was an episode where Roy was called into Jen's office and she asks him to install a browser. And he hears this weird noise and he sees that her computer is completely infected with viruses and pop-ups. And the best line is, no, Jen, this thing is infected. If this was a human being, I'd shoot it in the face. I laughed so hard.
It sounds good.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's like I said, it's only 25 episodes. It is such a quick watch. And it's also like, if you love British humor, it's perfect. And
Have you seen Coupling?
No, but I hear that's a good show. A lot of people talk about that.
It's hysterical.
When it comes to British comedies, I always hear about the following three. That is one of them, the one that you just mentioned, Coupling, The Original Office with Ricky Gervais, and Ab Fab.
Yeah, you watch
Everybody
Coupling.
loves
You and
Ab
Jen
Fab.
together watch Coupling. It is so funny.
Yeah, I hear really good things about it. Yeah, the IT Crowd was such a funny show. I would totally watch that show again. I really, really would. Look, if that's going to wrap it all up, I'm just going to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to my amazing co-hosts for a great year. I mean, I know we had a couple of inconsistent periods. We had some ups and downs, but I still feel that at the end of the day, we really had a great conversation. This was a fantastic conversation, by the way. I had so much fun tonight. So I am just hoping for the same going into 2022. I also want to let everybody know that we are actually going to have another person joining us. And I think that that's going to be great for us as a team because God forbid something happens to one of us, there's always going to be enough people to carry the show on because, look, the show must go on regardless, I feel. And I just think giving us that little bit of wiggle room and flexibility is just going to make us a much stronger year. But yeah, we'll be back for more The Old, the New, and the Awesome in 2022. And with that, everybody, I just want to say have a happy and safe new year, and we will see you all in the next one.
Bye.
Bye. Happy holidays.
If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.